all that. I mean,
So it must be dinosaur poo.
Could be.
definitely dinosaur poo.
Are the kids asking for Christmas presents here, Eric? Is that what they were doing?
Might as well be.
Well, you guys are back. We got Otis here back, and we were talking about Chip's great new Shegman Blade Shield. It's hit the market here recently. What's in it? Super secret ingredient. Hey, it's not that hard to make this stuff, but I tell you what, we take all of the pain of having to make it yourself. We package it up nicely, and you want to buy mine because it's got a Bigfoot on the front of the got a Bigfoot on the can. That's cool. And mine you can actually use in your beard. I actually use it. I have a can that in my bathroom that I actually use to condition my beard and curl my stash. It's amazing. And it works on blades too. Yeah. You know, Otis here, I saw a picture of you with hair this week.
Oh, you did?
We'll get back to that.
Yep.
3, 2, 1, 0.
You're listening to the Knives Templars.
I got a piece off of the wagon that Sam Houston used to take JFK to the moon.
Pinto sauce. I like that. Pinto sauce.
Pinto sauce. You're tuned in to the Knives Templars podcast. Featuring Jason Fry.
Yeah, I've been just been doing what we do.
Long time listener, first time caller. Eric T.R.E. Rivers.
Holy crap, I built something.
Mark Vassallo.
There would be a lot of places I would launch myself to.
Chip Carlisle. We've had a raccoon come through the screen door down in the family room.
I was a mean kid.
And Josh Ferrand. And now, broadcasting across planet Earth, it is the Knives Templars, coming to you live from PORKHouse Studios right here in Hartselle, Alabama, and scattered across the country. We are on demand, and it's time to sit back and enjoy another show on the KnivesTemplars.com.
Welcome, guys. This is Chip Carlisle. Welcome to the Knives Templars, greatest dang podcast out there on the planet concerning making knives or just general talk or just catching up with the boys, you know. We are back. I think I turned my camera off there. Let me see if I can turn it back on. There I am, guys. I don't know how I did that. But the guys on the podcast, you guys, I'm always dark. But I will, I'm always in the dark, you know. I haven't come out of the closet yet. But got some exciting news. Not only being one of the most interesting knife making podcasts and just general talk in general. We are at season 8, episode 70. And I believe
Already.
And I tell you what, Otis here is with me tonight. Eric is with us tonight. And I think we are the original dream team that started all of this. I haven't been drinking. I promise you guys.
Yeah, the OGs.
Yeah, is that original goats or guys or girls or what is that?
All the above.
All the above? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, no, episode 70, man. I'm so tickled we're here. And yes,
last one of the year.
It is the last one of the year. So we played a little Christmas music coming in. This time we don't have Otis here doing the PORKHouse Playhouse this year. I think we did that a couple years ago. We've been around long enough that we're not going to put you through that again. But I expect it to be just as an exciting episode. If you haven't been out to KnivesTemplars.com, guys, go out there and take a look. You'll see the addition, one of our newest guest hosts. She is known very well across the knife making industry. Her name is Emily, and she owns castingcrafts.com. And she's at somebody's birthday dinner, daughter's boyfriend's birthday dinner tonight, and she's meeting him or something like that. But anyway, Merry Christmas, like Emily. Josh is out selling knives tonight. Hope you're doing well, Josh.
Can you believe him? He ditched us to go sell knives.
Well, it seems like he was talking big cash there. Now I think I would.
Whoa! The IRS is listening. He was small cash.
Yes.
$5.
Let's just say, for that amount of money, I would sell you this podcast, Otis here. That's all I have to say. And let's see what else. Jason is with family tonight, doing a Christmas family event. And who have I left out? Oh, Mark is he's being a made man up in New Jersey this week. He's being the knife mafia is making him a full-time knife maker. Yes, a full-time knife maker.
Wow.
So no messing with him anymore. And finally, one of our newest buddies, and he's not a cast member per se, but he's hanging out with us in the green room quite often because he's just a fun guy. That's Steve Katz. And I want to tell you guys, he'll be on the next episode, a full episode. And what's so interesting about this guy is that he was going to be on tonight, but they had a lion that was poached over in Africa. And Steve is from South Africa, and they were able to remove the mane, and they flew it over to the United States today in one of those ice buckets, and he's having it transplanted on over at Hair Club for Men down in Florida tonight. So we wish him I can't wait to see him at Blade Show. I mean, the guy's really got some African-themed knives. I'm actually buying one next month. I love his knives, and now he's going with the whole look. I just, growl. I don't know what else to say.
Name.
Roar, so I don't know. He's going to give Kyle Royer a run from his money, because Kyle's got his front right set up at Blade Show every year, and he's got all those gorgeous knives and this, that, and the other. But the other bald guy down at the other side is going to up his game with his gorgeous knives by adding a mane to it. So anyway, we'll be looking forward to that. Eric, you have been AWOL for a good cause. We know where you've been. You've been checking in, and we don't blame you. Catch us up a little bit on where your life has been the last 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, it's been a wild couple of months, that's for sure. And for one, with Steve, I'll tell you this. So I got to hang out with him at the Texas Select Show and look at his stuff in person and all that, and his little African shields and spears and all that are really cool. But yeah, for the last couple of months, I've been doing the whole Dragon Forge experience down in the Texas Renaissance Festival in Texas. It's the United States' largest Ren fair, and it is massive. It's a whole entire town. So the mayor of the town is the king of the fair, and he basically created this town because of the fair. So it's Todd Mission is where the fair is at. He's the mayor of Todd Mission and the king of the Ren Fair. And there's a Netflix series or a video or documentary or whatever about him. So you can actually watch the documentary on this guy on Netflix. And
so was Dan Crenshaw part of his political realm of the kingdom?
No, but he does. He lives kind of sort of around there ish. He's within an hour of that area, and that was really cool. But it was nice forging a sword with him or teaching him how to forge a sword.
I'm sure he came up and said, "Do you have any eye protection?" And Eric went, "That's for sissies."
No, I will tell you this. The interesting thing is trying to get a person who has bad depth perception because of the one eye thing.
Oh yeah.
So we did, hot chisel work and whatnot on the actual the sword. We did a rune on the sword, and for courage, it's a Norse rune for courage, and he had to hit the head of the chisel and had to aim it. And we're doing this at 6:30 at night, and the sun's already pretty much down. So we're working with just the little bit of lights that you have in the the forge area, and I'm having him aim at a shadow. And it was interesting. He did really good though. Now I'll tell you the funny part about this was the contrast of people that I had in my forge at that point. So I
Yeah.
had Dan Crenshaw, this super manly man, you know, wounded veteran, like badass of a dude, and
RuPaul and RuPaul.
he right, well, and this little skinny paper thin guy wearing a COVID mask, um, and they couldn't have been the more opposite of the people. Both him and his wife were wearing COVID masks and all of that stuff, and it was kind of interesting seeing the contrast of the two. But I'll tell you this: that little skinny dude came to forge a sword. He was beating the heck out of the steel, and they both did great. But it was just kind of funny having both of them there at the one time. And I was going to try and live stream it, but the live stream was acting up. But I could only imagine the comment section when these two polar opposites are trading off hammering. You know, I would have had to have just muted the comment section because it would have been all political, everything, nonstop the whole entire time.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
No. But it was cool, and he was super cool. I'll tell you the craziest thing about this whole experience is you have to learn how to forge as quick as possible when you're doing this. It is not for the person who's just going to be kind of sort of doing this as like an off and on type thing. You have to forge a lot of blades.
Define
constantly.
as quick as possible because you're making a lot of blades, or because you're trying something that you're doing requires you to move faster.
So we have about 30 minutes to do 4 to 6 blades to forge them out of railroad spikes or horseshoes or whatever they end up sending us to work on in that experience block. And the time that we're trying to get them done in is 30 minutes. 30 minutes for the experience, the forging process, all of that. So we have to, I mean, you're basically forging 4 to 6 integral bolster knives and daggers with twisting the handle, doing upgrades on the pommel, chisel work, and fully forging out a blade that can go back to the grind shed and be ground as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So that it has bevels and sharpened and all that stuff. But everything has to be centered. You know, the blades have to be centered. The bevels have to be semi-forged in. The cutting edges need to be centered down the handle. And you have to be able to forge, 40 to 50, almost 60 of these a day.
Oh my gosh! So did you have a ye old tire hammer from 722, the year 722?
Oh no! This is all hand forged. And what was nice is we would have like the customers or the people doing the experience are basically people that they kind of act as your striker.
They were your
the whole
tire
entire
hammers.
time. Yeah, but the hard part is you also have like 6-year-olds and 10-year-olds and adults that don't know how to swing a hammer at all. So their arms are staying at one spot. And they're using their wrists to swing a 4-pound hammer. So they're not doing anything to it. And so what you have to do is compensate for that.
Right.
And you have to just blast it. And I would say the most fun that people had was watching me just take my friggin' hammer and just boom, 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 and I'm shaking the whole floor that they're on. They're on these like pavers, and they're just like at first, they're standing right next to me, and I start swinging, and they just gradually start backing up and backing up and backing.
Well,
holy crap!
You're a good blacksmith. We're not we don't make horseshoes, we make knives. And so I don't know if it's a weaponsmith or a knife smith or a blacksmith, but you're a good blacksmith. And with that being said, somebody told me a long time ago in a conversation, I had to give a speech, and they said, well, if you know 10% more than anybody in here, you're an expert. So I would say someone with your skill, they were probably sitting back and going, oh my gosh, this guy is so, we know you're extremely talented, but that was multiplied by many factors by people that are experiencing this, watching you go, when you would probably say, well, let me tell you about this blacksmith and that blacksmith. You know, we have a tendency to humble ourselves, and there's not a lot of humbling that you need to do because your forging is just spot on. Josh Fran's another one that's spot on, but as far as getting close to a finished blade, and so, but you know, just the pedestal that just by nature of what you do, you're up on an event like that. Those people had to be enamored with working with that hot steel, just watching you go at it.
So one of the things that they would like is, you know, I would let them do as much of the hammering as possible. So basically, when it comes to the heats, we try and do it as few heats as possible. So the first heat comes out, we forge in their rune on the pommel or the head of the spike. So we put the spike down in the hardy hole. They smooth out the head, get rid of the numbers and letters with the hammer. And then we do the chisel work, and then it goes back in the forge. So that's the first heat. The second heat, we pull it out, put it in the post leg vise, twist it 360 degrees. That puts the twist on the handle where the grip's going to be.
Yeah.
And then it goes back in the heat, or it goes back in the forge. And then on the third heat, we have to forge it from a spike and do the initial flare on the tip of it, whether it be a knife or a dagger. And then if we can do it fast enough, we'll flare out the tip and draw back a little bit towards the spiral and flatten that out. And then by the time we get to the next heat, we start spreading the cheeks or the shoulders or the heels of the knife.
Rephrase that.
And no, that's how we told that's the way we worded it to everybody the whole entire time. So I said that probably 1,000 times during this whole thing. But we would pull out the heels, and then basically what would happen is it would be a very rough looking, beat up thing, and then they would watch me because I would do a heat just by myself. I'd tell them, okay, this next heat, I'm going to give y'all a break. You know, y'all go ahead and rest. I'm going to go ahead and take care of this one, kind of get it refined a little bit, and then we'll go from there. And I'd pull it out, and I would take that lump of something in that one heat and forge in bevels, forge in a full profile, get the heels perfect, get everything lined up, get it all even. And whenever they would whenever they would sit there and watch me do that, they would go, "What on earth?" Like they would just watch it and go, "How did you turn that thing into that quick when we've been heating it up and forging it this whole entire time, and I've been hitting with two hands, you come in with one hand and a lighter hammer and you just do it all." And they would love that aspect of it. And then it was a lot of fun. And I'll tell you, I forged a little over 1,000 knives in 2 months, and it was a great experience. And it was brutal on my body, but it was absolutely experience that I will do as every year for as long as I can do it. I will be a part of this thing with them, and it was an experience. And I feel like if you want to get into bladesmithing or blacksmithing, doing something like this is crazy. And you got to think about it. One of the guys that's with us is a Forged and Fire champion. The guy who runs the whole entire thing is a Forged and Fire champion. We have Forged and Fire contestant Neil Warren, Justin Hammond for Hammerson on Instagram. Justin Hammond or Justin Hammerson, depending on what you're looking at. He's one of the Forged and Fire winners. He was the forge right over from me, and he is amazing at doing as close to forge to finish as possible. Uh, him and I were the ones that were kind of competing with each other the whole entire time on how many we could knock out as clean as possible and still pump out the numbers. And it was really cool. I just had a blast. But I'll tell you what went to the wayside because of this was like the whole YouTube thing. Now, I was able to do still YouTube stuff, content stuff,
Right.
a little bit, but not as much. And of course, I didn't get to do the podcast hardly at all because I was traveling all day Friday there and then getting the campsite semi ready every single Friday.
What were you sleeping in? What were you sleeping in?
So we did one of those Ozark Trail canopies and then did the tents that come off the side of the canopy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did a zipper wall on one side and a closed off wall on the other. And then I have an outdoor rug. So I put the outdoor rug underneath the whole entire canopy. It's a 10 by 12. So I had the griddle inside there on a table. We were able to cook breakfast each morning.
So
I
you
took
were
my
like
little Blackstone.
You were like old school out there living on the dirt inside the only thing you were missing were bear rugs on the floor.
Basically. And it was awesome. It was an experience. I mean, you camp every weekend for 2 months, three nights, every weekend for 2 months. You really get used to camping.
Yeah,
And,
I'll tell you, I've been considering. I've decided not to buy a camper. I don't want to pull a camper, and all campers eventually leak and fall apart. You don't see a 50-year-old camper that's in good shape, more or less. I don't think you see 20-year-old campers in good shape. I think you come from that industry, so you may, there's a lot. When they go down the road, they shake apart, and you essentially just got to keep sealing them, and eventually you can't keep up with the seals. And that's not bad. I mean, it's great if you're a person that buys them and sells them and this, that, and the other. But I've decided to go with a spring bar or a Kodiak.
the Kodiaks are nice.
I love the Kodiaks, and I'm trying to decide: do I want the Kodiak with the spring bar in it, or do I want to get the 4-wall, more cabin style with the? And I think I want to go that route because I want to be able to put a stove in it. And I can throw that in the back of the Jeep and go set up wherever I want to. Instead of backpacking like I used to, I can set up a base camp and backpack out and come back and cook good around the fire each night and that kind of stuff. But I digressed. Yeah. I just was thinking about your camping experience and kind of what I've been thinking about going to.
No, I was looking at both of those, the Kodiak and the spring bar, for next year. And because they have the 10 by 10 and the 10 by 14.
Yes. Which one do you like? I need to know which one you like so I can be like you.
The spring bar.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was thinking about either doing a 10 by 10 or a 10 by 14. I haven't really decided yet, but those are great, like semi-long term tents. The canvas is super thick and they're really, really, really water resistant. So that's probably the direction I'll end up going, and you have more walkable space because the walls are really vertical.
Yes. Well, Kodiak makes a tent like that also. And
they do.
Yeah. The thing is if you want to buy an American-made tent, that same tent and the other brand will run you about $1,600. You can get it
$1,600 to $2,100.
Yeah, exactly. You can get that same tent in the Kodiak brand, and it is made overseas, but it's like $1,000, $900 to $1,200, depending on what features you get.
For the larger one, if you do the 10 by 10, you can get it all the way down to about 650.
Yes.
650, 700, and but yes, so. That part of this was really cool, and I'll tell you the couple of the highlights during this thing was.
You don't want to talk about tents no more? Did I hijack that with tent talk? That's another podcast. Go ahead.
Hey, I'll tell you, a lot of these people probably don't probably don't know that much about them, but the hot tent thing is the thing that I'm thinking about doing because I want to do a stove that I can cook on and not have to bring the griddle.
Yeah.
So they have really cool stoves that you can get nowadays. They even have pellet stoves.
I bet we could make our own
Which,
stove. We could make our own stove.
yeah, if you just look at the designs of the stoves that you get for hot tents nowadays, they're not complicated. They're just
Nah.
punched out tin basically. But yes, the other things that were really cool about this little stint of time is I had a weekend where I went to the Texas Custom Knife Show and I did a live forging there. They paid me to come out and be the demonstrator there. It was myself doing my thing and then Doug Markita doing his thing. We were the two paid people to come and be the celebrities at the show. And it's weird being the other person to like a Doug Markita because I don't feel like I'm that. And I get that some people think that I am that, but I don't feel like that because I've never been on a TV show or anything. So I don't see myself as that. But people did travel to come watch me do this in person from like Kansas and stuff. Like people traveled from a far distance to be able to watch me do my thing in person. And I was like, this is awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Just don't start painting your fingernails.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, not gonna do that.
I mean, you already got a
But
ponytail, so I mean,
You do have a
what's the
ponytail.
fingernail?
Who's the knife maker with the painted fingernails up in New England?
there's a lot of, hey, I'll tell you, you say painted fingernails. One of the guys at the Dragon Forge thing forged Mocha Magane dragon claws for his hands. They actually went on
Yeah.
every single nail. They were Mocha Magane uh like full forged dragon claws that he did. He's the guy that did the Warhammers for us, and his
Yeah.
name's Scott Mullen. He is awesome maker. But anyways, yeah. The cool thing was
You could get one of those
doing
Mike Tyson tattoos, like around your face, and some type of
just
runes. Yeah, that would no, just on one side around
absolutely
the eye.
not.
No, okay.
No face tattoos. But no, it was cool having people come out and do that, and we had like 125,000 people watching that live stream whenever I did that, and the next day was another one just like that. I I only got paid to do the first day. I went ahead and live streamed and did forging on the second day too because Frank, two bastards, the Frank Machado, he brought this amazing uh 19 or 1875. That's what it was. 18 like 75 or 1865 uh steak anvil for me to be able to forge on, and it was
How did you
sick.
How did
It
you
was
like that?
it was awesome.
Oh, okay.
It was really cool forging on this like double horned, really crazy shaped anvil, and
Yeah,
that was a blast. So forging on that, I challenged myself to make 3 knives in 3 hours because
yeah,
they do the forged and fire thing at this show. So they had a forged and fire style competition where guys made knives and then they were tested out on stage by Doug and then voted on who made the best style of knife. But because of that, I was like, they're asked to make a knife in 3 hours. So I'm gonna make 3 knives in 3 hours. I'm gonna do different size knives and one completely integral knife. So I
Did you
did that.
forge? Did you forge temper them?
No, did not forge temper them.
Have you ever
They
forged tempered a knife?
Have I tempered a knife using a forge?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's what I was
Uh,
asking. If you tempered the
yeah.
knives there to temper them back.
No, no. My goal was to forge them, not heat treat them.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about getting them into a competition and to get rid of.
No.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Because their first 3 hours is just making a piece of steel into a knife.
Got
Their
you.
second step of it is it gets heat treated and tempered and all that, and then they put a handle on it. But the first 3 hours is them making a knife. And I forged to finish 3 knives with bevels all the way down to a cutting edge and distal tapers and all that stuff. And I finished them in 2 hours and 10 minutes and instead of 3 hours. So one of the guys, Steve, that came from Kansas to watch, he went and bought a piece of steel for me to forge a 4th knife to finish in the 3 hours. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's going to bring back a piece of steel. I'm going to forge another knife. He brings back a 1 foot long by 1.5 inches tall by 3/8 inch thick piece of 1095. So I'm like, dude, you didn't have to bring me back a hammer to forge with. I thought you were bringing me back a piece of steel, like a knife, like something I can make a knife out of, not like something I'm gonna make a sword out of.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, you got this. Make a knife. So I make a 21 inch long kukri, and it's ridiculous. This thing is, it's as long from my fingertips to my elbow here. That's how long this blade is. And but yeah, I finished that puppy.
You didn't sever any arteries or any cuts or anything during this whole thing?
Nope, just a lot of burns.
Congratulations. Man, I tell you what, when I was working with Josh Ferrand, I'm actually pretty good at forging knives now. I've been okay. Now I'm pretty good at it. And I will tell you that you're good at it when you come home and you've got blisters on the tops of your hands and around your fingers and everything, because you've been getting in there with that steel and things have been popping off and hitting your hands, and you were just man enough to live through it. So I can imagine those things take a while to heal, by the way. Yeah.
Yes. I've got them.
Yeah, I'm showing you mine. The last one to heal up right there. I mean, it was
into a piece of flux stick inside your glove.
I had a glove on.
Scissors and digs a little hole in your hand.
Yeah, I had a glove on, and I had one piece of oh, good gosh, help me here. What comes off the steel when you heat it? Carbon.
The forge scale.
Forge scale, thank you. I had one piece go down in my glove, and that's the one that rested right here that burnt the deepest, and I didn't feel it going in. Eventually, I took it off, and I'm like, I guess that's well done.
The whole time we're doing it.
And you were wearing a dress the whole time.
Yes, we're wearing kilts the entire time. So the whole entire time, I had
scale
falling in my boots.
On, so that's a good thing.
Well, I had scale falling in my boots. So in between my socks and everything, burning holes in the socks and
maybe
all
you should
that.
have
Like it was,
maybe you should have worn a leotard or stockings with your dress.
Nope, they wanted to see our sexy legs. Now, one of the other things that happened during this, the first time I ever had a piece of steel, like because one of the things that we do during this, we have a part where we use a ball peen hammer, and they hit we have softened hammers to do this typically, and where we're using the ball peen and we're directing where the steel is going, they're hitting the other head of the hammer with another hammer, so they're striking the heads of these hammers together. Well, we grabbed one of the hammers that wasn't tempered back enough, and a chip of it came off the hammer and went through my finger. So it was going fast enough that whenever she struck it, it went into my finger and lodged all the way back off over here on the other side. It was about just over 1/2 inch long of a piece of hammer that just went straight into the finger, and we had to pull it out and all that stuff. But this same girl, I swear, we traumatized this girl. So she does that. I go get bandaged up and everything, come back, to forge with her, and she's hitting the steel. The steel comes out of the tongs and just racks me. I mean, this thing is still like it had just come down from orange and was still like bright red, and it just smacks me in the groin and
Oh,
just puts an imprint of this steel right on my kilt. It is just a railroad spike knife, just boom, and just stamps the kilt.
Man, oh man, that was close. You know, I had a piece fly up at me one time and was doing somersaults in front of my eyes and came down and struck my my apron that I was wearing. And interestingly enough, I went back and watched the video because I ended up making a video of it on how not to hold steel, and it just sparks off of my chest. It was quite interesting. Well, guys, just a minute. I want to talk about something, a new product that we are being sponsored by, and that is Shegman Blade Shield. And you can find Shegman Blade Shield over at knife-maker.com. It is one of the ultimate protectants out there. It's made from all natural ingredients. We don't put any scents or anything else into here because, you know, some people say ours is orange scented. Well, why add that potentially acidic material into something that's going to be on your blade? We keep ours neutral and non-confrontational with your steel. And it's really blade protection by choice, not by chance. And you can find Shegman Knife Shield over at knife-maker.com, and we'll be glad to throw a package in the mail to you right away. Comes in a black can. It's got the Bigfoot on it. And everybody needs some knife shield with a Bigfoot on it. One last thing I'll say about it is that it's my product, and but also it goes on very thin. It melts very quickly in your fingers or your cloth or whatever you want to put it on, and it puts on a nice thin coat. I always let it sit for about 30 seconds just to let that solidify up just barely. It never really gets solid or hard, but then I wipe it across and then it gets in there, and man, it's doing a great job for my knives. I like it. So you can find that at knife-maker.com. That is Shegman Blade Shield. One other thing is TR Maker. You know, since 1980, you sell over at TR Maker's offered high quality and fast service from Istanbul, Turkey. If I place an order on Wednesday, I get it here by the next Sunday or Monday. You need to check out their line of knife making tools to make your job easier and more precise. You can't do without them once you discover them. And I will tell you what, he's come. You know, I was getting ready to start pricing out a mill, but he's coming out with a drill guide that's lined up that will help put your drills in your bolsters, where you basically just barely have to punch through between the circles from your drill. And I've told him when that comes out, I want to be customer number one to purchase one from him because, man, that's going to be one cool product without having to put the expense into a mill, which isn't a bad thing. But the only thing I know I would use a mill for is flattening and making guards. There's other things I'm sure I would learn to do, but I mean, that's a lot of money. It's one reason I don't buy an oven is because I'm not making stainless steel, and I've got a thermocouple in my forge, and I can heat the temperature, I can let it set, and then I can quench it, and it's fine. If I ever want to get into stainless, maybe I'll get an oven at that time, but you know, that's just not where I'm headed. I did want a tire hammer until Josh Friend said I can do everything with a 25-ton press that I've got. No reason to buy. Tire hammer's cool, let me tell you, but no reason to. I can use one at the forge, the council that I belong to, but the
it's
press
not necessary though.
No,
if you have
press may take just a little bit longer to do it that way because you don't get that bam 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 cycle. You're getting the cycling of the forge, but of the press, but not too bad. Is there anything else there that I think I need for my shop? There's got to be something else.
How many dies do you have for your press? Do you have like all the different types of dies?
I have a canister die. I have a round die. I have a 4x4 or 6. No, I have a 6x6 inch flat die that's rounded off at the edges. I have a 4x2 inch flat die that's rounded off at the edges, and I'm making myself a ladder Damascus die right now. So I've got a guy that's got a mill that's milling out the steel for the dies, and then I just have to weld them to the plates. And that's what's so nice about, hey, well, that'll take us to ClarkIronworks.com with Clark Taplin. I've got one of his presses. He makes a series of presses, forges, and his press is 17, 25, and 40 ton. And you can get all of your dies and everything from him. But if you know how to weld and this and the other, it's pretty easy to make them. But you guys check out Clark Iron Forge. He's actually come out with a roller mill that mounts to the table next to his press right now. And that rolling mill is pretty cool. Still in some development right now, but we got to watch him use it at Knife Club. That's actually our Alabama Forge Council. But it was Alabama Custom Knife Makers Guild, part of the Alabama Forge Council. It was so neat to sit and watch that guy roll that steel the way he did. So, yeah, that's what I've got. Yeah. Those number dies.
That's cool. I don't know. So, Otis here and I were talking about shop tools yesterday.
Yeah.
And stuff that we think is cool and kind of necessary, and stuff that's kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
That a lot of people want. I think that rolling mills are cool, but I think that just becomes one of those. There's a whole bunch of tool bloat, is what I call it, and
true.
Even my friends' shops. I've got friends that have, just they've got like 3 induction forges because they don't want to change the coil that's on they have their shop laid out so that they can go from one thing to the next thing and to the next thing. And so they have 3 induction forges. Some people would just want one, and they're like,
how many grinders do you have, Eric?
I have 2 real grinders, and then if you want to add in the 1x30s, I guess I have 4.
Well, so grinders don't fall into tool bloat because it's no fun changing grinders around. I got to do this finger troll area and then switch it back out and do this. But I can understand how somebody can get there. But I hear what you're saying. It can get very costly.
Yeah, people will have a press, but then they also have a rolling mill, and it's like, technically, you could flatten and do that stuff with your press, like with Otis here talking about kiss blocks and stuff like that. When we were on the phone, there's things that you can make that aren't so much necessary, but like we were talking about like the progression on what people not so much should have to do within starting knife making. And then progress to the other parts, but like Otis here, what do you think that people should learn first in knife making before they start buying other tools? What was your thing?
Grinding. Stock removal. Step 1, stock removal is to learn how to use a grinder.
Right.
Before you get into all of the other stuff. And this is perfect for Chip too, because that's kind of what Chip did.
I mean, like we were talking, right? It depends on where you want to go. If you want to get clean, finishes on the knives and everything, even plunge lines and bevels, and learn how to grind first. Grind your shape, grind your plunge lines. And then you can jump into forging, right? If you go straight into forging, you never learn how to grind. That will be clearly visible, right? So it's one of those things where, personally, I started grinding. That's what it was easier for me to do. And now I'm forging, then grinding, right? So, yeah.
Do you you're always going to be a stock removal guy. Forging's just taking it to another level and learning a new skill.
Like we were talking about way before, right? When I think of forging, I'm thinking exactly of what Eric is doing. Taking a piece of axle or a leaf spring or, something that is not a knife and making it into a knife instead of buying knife stock.
Of course,
8-inch thick, by 1.5 wide, foot long piece of steel. I mean, how much can you forge out of that thing to become a knife? I mean, it's pretty much a knife already.
Right? I watch a lot of people Jason Knight, I always watch him his videos, and he's taken 4-foot long lengths of a milled steel and turning them into beautiful buoys and this, that, and the other. But I will agree with you. I think with forging with me right now, what I like about that is that you take something that nobody could envision that being a knife, whether it's the Damascus you're doing, or just taking a piece of oddly shaped steel out of something, knowing that it's got either knowing the steel or testing it for the carbon content by sparks or whatever, or pre-testing it to see if it'll harden, and then turn that into a knife. And it's kind of like taking Play-Doh and putting it through the Play-Doh hamburger helper set and turning it into a hamburger, but with the press. I mean, you're taking something that doesn't have that form, not anybody else around you could do it, and you're turning it into something beautiful. And that's really the art of it.
And that's what I mean, right? If you want to go forge an 8-inch thick stock, 8-inch stock, and forge into a knife, by all means, I'm not stopping you.
Yeah.
But I just see it as unnecessary, right? Whereas, okay, I'm gonna forge a 120 layer piece of Damascus. Okay, then of course you're gonna have to forge, either by hammer and anvil, or a press, or a power hammer.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to forge. But if you're just forging for the sake of forging, on a steel that is already knife ready, I mean,
Yes.
I don't see the point, right?
Had to go run out to the shop real quick. So on basically, I do agree with you, but so like this piece of steel, I took that much of it, split it down the center, and that's what all of these right here were from. So like taking a piece of steel that was only 3 inches long.
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see that. I give you that 100%. But what I mean is, right? What I mean is, right? I've seen some people where they buy 8-inch stock, inch wide, right? And that long bar.
Yeah.
I mean, how much can you forge? It's not the same thing as you have a 2-inch wide piece of steel at a 1/4-inch thick, and then do what you did there. So you're maximizing the steel that you have.
Well, you have to go back.
That's correct.
You have to go back and normalize that steel and this, that, and the other, when you could have just cut it out and cut out all those steps. What I think when I see people do this is that they will go in and take a piece of 2-inch wide stock that's whatever thickness, 3/16, and they'll set and beat it down into a knife shaped object that is really poorly hammered into place, and then they'll go back and they will grind away everything to make it look like a knife, when they could have just, that way they can say, hey, I forged it, but you really didn't forge anything. You just you beat the steel hot.
I remember saying this on a previous episode. I watched this dude on YouTube.
Episode 3.
A big piece of steel, I don't know, 80 Chevy 1095, it doesn't really matter, 2-inch wide, he bit into a knife shape, and then goes back into a surface grinder and clean everything. And then after everything is clean, then he still go and grind all the bevels in, right? As if, I forged it. Okay, cool. Right? But where is the forging now that you surface grounded everything? I can't really tell.
So here's my issue with that. My issue with people who do that, whenever they go through and they do that forging process, forging the right way, maintaining your heat in the steel, forging at the right temperatures, not leaving the steel in the heat for too long and burn out your carbon. There's a lot of people that want to forge a blade like that, but they'll take this beautiful, perfect piece of steel that has already had all the right stuff done to it.
Yep.
And they take that bar that is ready to be a knife, and they risk screwing that steel up by overheating it, getting it underheated, doing all of this crap to it, and then they turn it into a really clean knife where they grind away all the forging it's not a brute to forge knife. They'll take and they'll completely surface grind it, grind in the bevels, do all of that stuff to it without realizing that they possibly screwed up the grain and this perfect piece of steel that was ready to go by doing a lot of stuff that could have been wrong in the process just so that they could say it's forged. But one of my other pet peeves is whenever people do a brute to forge knife, but they do what you said, where they forge a knife shaped kind of object and then they take one of their stencils, one of their templates, I mean, plop it down on that thing and they grind a half an inch off the whole entire thing.
They never would have got that knife if they didn't throw that stencil on there.
Yes. And
the other one that gets me is the guys. Now, if this has got forge hammer texture, that's one way of saying it. Okay. But the guys that say I forged this, that took a piece of flat stock that went through and beat it up, and you can see the ball peen marks in it, and really not the finished look you want anyway, unless you're going for that. I never call anybody out and bless them. It's just their artwork, but it is Shania Twain once said, "It don't impress me much," you know.
Yeah. So whenever I hear brute to forge or a forge knife, I think of something like what I do, where I forged in the distal taper, I forged in the distal to the tip, forged in the bevels on it, and forged it perfectly straight to where this knife, it is a forged knife. Right. I got this profile and I forged 6 of them to where I only had to remove a 1/16 of an inch at max off of any of the sections on it.
Yeah.
And that is what I call a forged knife. Like whenever I started doing it, I had an idea for a profile in my mind and I started forging it. And once I forged the first one, I took that one and I kind of, once I forged the blade section, I was comfortable with it. I took and put it on one of my anvils, marked the outline on it on my anvil, and then I forged the other 5 to that profile. Same thing for my handle.
And they all looked about the same. They all looked darn close. I couldn't tell them apart if you had. Yeah.
And that's because they all basically are the same.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point. But the whole point behind this is whenever I see a forged knife or somebody calling it a forged knife,
just
my goal...
That's not Otis Sears' colon. He's unzipping a case right now, just so everybody that's listening.
With these, I don't want those big hammer marks. Like there's a few of my favorite knife makers that are out right now, and they do these like really cool brute to forge knives. There's a few guys on YouTube that make them. Holland knives.
Like his stuff,
dude is he makes beautiful knives. Jay Lee knives.
Yes.
Beautiful knives. But whenever they do the brute to forge, you can see all of whether they're using their press and they're using the drawing dies, or whether they're using a cross peen or a straight peen, they leave all those hammer marks in the flats as they're forging them. That's part of the knife aesthetic. For me, I don't want that particular stuff. I want the texture of it. I want the biggest thing you're going to see on my knives are like something like a forge scale texture. That's about it. Like where you can see where I was forging it and you have the forge scale outlines. I don't like those
dense
deep hammer marks. I want it to look clean. I want it to look smooth. And I want you to be able to see like my plunge lines. Like you can see the shininess transition for my plunge line right here.
Right.
You can see where it transitions from the handle being flat to where the blade is. And all of them have that same transition line from what's going to end up being the flats and going into the bevels. Like that is a that is what I'm looking for. I want to be able to do stuff like that on all of them, and that's what I think of as a forged knife.
And
It's a pet peeve of mine to see these ABS knives that these people are making, and they're knives that they turn in, but all the knives have to be forged, but these are like Odysseer style clean, beautiful knives, but the prerequisite is they have to be forged knives. So they have to be a knife that they have to be a piece of steel that you swung hammers at, and then you took away anything
All the hammer marks,
that
yes.
shows that
Yeah,
it
they
was
gotta go.
forged.
you can even
It
use
can't
flat.
have
You can even
any of
use
that.
flat stock from popsknifesupplies.com to forge your hammer in and or forge your knife and turn it in as an ABS knife, and it's perfectly acceptable. But Pop's Knives was started 40 years ago by James Poplin and it served the knife making community. With industry-leading prices and actual shipping costs, run today by Alan Searles, Joey Berry, and Dirk Lutz. They are full-time knife makers, and I have not been drinking tonight. I don't drink. The focus is customer service and great products and prices. Check them out today. I turned 60 last episode, guys. I can't speak no more. But guys, go out to popsknifesupplies.com. And I also want to recommend you do something. It's actually first episode's coming out tomorrow. It's a new podcast by PORKHouse Productions, and it's called the Shegman Kniver. And yep. And it's not necessarily about making knives. We don't talk about knives very much on the Shegman Kniver. And you guys be looking for those announcements to come out on all of the leading podcast providers tomorrow. That's the Shegman Kniver. And you can find more about the Shegman Kniver over at knife-maker.com. Otis, are you going to show us a knife?
Yeah, so going back to the forging thing, right? It all goes back to what Eric was saying, and my take on it would be like, what is your final product that you want to put out, right? What do you want to present as your final product? Like Eric, he liked to do those clean, brute the forge finishes. They are really amazing. That is something unique about the way Eric does things. Me, on the other hand, I like to have my thing clean,
Mm-hmm.
smooth, no hammer marks, no waves on my bevels, everything straight, everything clean. That's what I want to do, right? That's what I like to make. So, you know, it's at the end of the day, I guess it's personal opinion. It's what you want to present to your customer, is how much effort are you willing to put it into a single piece, right? And how much of good enough are you willing to take, right?
Yeah.
Because for me, it is not good enough until it looks something like this, right? And I worked on this knife, on and off for about almost a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't work it all the time because of the season that we're on here in Maryland, and I've been enjoying it. But I wanted something that is pretty, it is clean, and everything is tight fit, no wiggle,
Oh yeah.
no gaps.
And let me say, Otis here is showing us a piece of Damascus that he has made, beautiful Damascus, and it's an ABS style submission knife where you're going to see a beautiful guard and a gorgeous handle all laid up and matching nicely together. So that's typically he's known for that style. And that's what you're going to see out of him. Hey, guys, we are approaching the top of the hour. And before we take our top of the hour break, I want to encourage people to go out to Phoenix Abrasives. They offer great prices, selection, quality, and quick delivery. They have a complete inventory of belts, discs, rolls, wheels, and anything else that you need to get the job done right. So enter Templar's 10 at checkout for 10% off your next order. And right, that was not Odysseer passing gas. He is now zipping up his case. Hey, it's the top of the hour. We'll be right back. We are back for hour number 2. But Odysseer, we have told him he's clicking his pins tonight. He's jumping up and down in his seat. He's unzipping cases, and he's dropping knives during the top of the hour break. But that's okay. That's why we love Odysseer. He brings us all to giggles. The good news is he's setting up next to his microphone tonight, and I won't have to artificially inflate his voice. So, welcome back, Odysseer.
Hey, happy to be back.
I'm so tickled you're here. I am. I just finished a knife that I worked on it for 3 months, August, September, October, November, 3.5 months, which was that big Bowie that I made. And even when I was finished, thank you. When I finished it, I went back and finished it 2 more times because I was not pleased with it. And it was basically... Something?
Yeah. Something when you look at it, and I can do a little more.
Yeah. So what it was is that I give my knives the fluorescent light test because a fluorescent light will uncover everything. When I do handles, I buff them. That'll show sanding lines. And then I go back and sand some more. And then when I do blades, I put them under a fluorescent light and things will pop out at you. And every time I finish that knife, I'd go back and look at it and go, I just don't know. And I finally took it to the Scotch Brite and just, coax that little baby into what she should look like. And now I've put her away for a trip to Atlanta in June. So
I have an important question about that knife.
Yeah.
How big is your tang?
The tang is too short. I don't ever make a knife with long enough tang, and if I did, it wouldn't get giggles out of us. And how big was your tang on your last knife?
3/4 of the handle.
Negatory Ghost Rider. That was the shortest tang I've ever seen. So you guys know when we show knives to each other. When we show knives to each other on our private page, the running joke is tang's too short. And I did make a knife with a short tang one time, and that's how that started. But Odysseer, the tang is probably 7 inches long. No, it's not that long. The tang is probably 5.5 inches long. But the handle is another 3/4 of an inch longer than any knife I've ever made on the handle itself. And the tang goes clear back,
it froze up.
80% of the handle. So it's sufficient. And then I serrated.
You're going to have to say everything again because you froze up for a minute.
Well, it'll be okay. It'll come out on the podcast, so you can listen to it for the first time and you can hear just what I said. Okay. But you will hear it. So that way it's good to listen. You can go back and hear what I said. I insulted you. But the thing is that no, I didn't. I serrated the handle. Rather than put a pin through it, I put serrations on the handle down both sides. Watched Josh Ferrand do that. And
then actually you gotta serrate all 4 corners of the tang.
Yeah, so I went down both sides and serrated them, and then I heat set that handle where it fits. It fits like a finger cotlet.
Oh, good job.
A glove, and you basically had to fight it off the handle when I was heat setting it. Yep. I always like it when you heat set a stabilized handle, you get that pop. When it's like a cannon firing off. You have to be careful because you don't want to crack your handle, building up too much pressure in there. But slowly heat set it up in there, and it fits like a glove, and it'll never come apart.
The best way you can do that process is by having your tang as even width from the shoulders to the tip of the tang. I had instances where, due to the design of the handle, I had to narrow the tip of my tang,
Uh-huh.
and there was a little bit of a struggle to heat set that tang. But every time I had it where the width of my tang is the same throughout, you
Uh-huh.
just
Yeah.
bring the tip of that tang bright hot, and then push in your, already drilled piece of wood, and it one push and you're done.
Yeah.
And
And
it's perfect. It fits perfect.
I actually, it probably
Not
took
only
me.
fits perfect, it saves you on the amount of epoxy that you're going to use. Because remember, the fit is so tight already. There will,
Yeah.
just a little bit of epoxy that you drop into the into the slot. When you push that thing in, it's going
Yeah.
to ooze all the way out into your guard. So yeah,
I don't
perfect.
fill up the tang with epoxy, but I make sure there's enough down in there, but I still put too much in because I squeeze a lot back out. But
You will learn over time. Right now, I'm using very little epoxy. Very little epoxy.
and I probably could do that. I just don't want any pockets to be in there. And I'm not saying you're doing it wrong. It's just developing that level. But I
There won't
made
be
a.
any pockets. Remember, when you heat set that thing in there,
Oh
it's
no, I
already
understand.
flush,
Yeah. It's
right?
just having faith in yourself. That's all I'm talking about. Faith in my
Yeah.
process, and I'm learning because this last knife I made, I squeezed a lot of epoxy out like the other four I've
Yeah.
made like that,
Yeah.
and realizing I'm just wasting epoxy. But I'll tell you, on the knife I made with the red handle, there was a crack in the wood when I got that handle on there, and I must have done something because it
What
wouldn't have
kind of
opened
wood?
up any. It's a piece of stabilized red maple burl, but
Oh,
but now that I've stored it away, it developed a little hairline crack that you can barely see it, but I can feel it. So I thought, well, I can just fill it with epoxy and give it to my sons, or I can dig the handle back off of there and
I
put
had
a new
that
handle
happen
on
to
it.
me with ebony. Ebony doesn't react very well to heat.
And
And I hit set
yeah,
a thing on ebony, and over time it developed a crack on the top of the handle from the guard area all the way to the end of the handle there. So
yeah. Well, I've decided that I'm going to look at it for a little while. It's a good looking knife, and nobody would notice it just looking at it. But and when I can run my fingernail across it and fix it, I'm like, well, I'm not just going to resand it because through thermal cycling, it's going to either lift or whatever again. But I did think I could get some red CA glue and fill it and resand it at that time and see if that works and just keep it as a family knife. My kids, my sons are grown men. They can have it someday, but it's not something I would sell or give away to somebody. I wouldn't want anybody to get a handle, developed a crack or something in it.
Yeah. I've
So,
been at that point with several knives. So
yeah.
I absolutely get that. Like it's one of those points where you get done with it and you're like, son of a gun,
Yeah, where'd that
this is
happen?
ridiculous. Or if the whole entire time I was doing it, I was in a humid area, and then move the knife inside my house, and it being in my house for a couple of days, it dries out,
Yeah.
because especially where I'm at, it's super humid,
Uh-huh.
and like you go to sleep at night, it looks like it rained on the ground because of just the humidity.
Right.
And if you're that wood's out in the shop the whole entire time in that environment, you finish the knife up, it gets that wood super dry, uh, especially
natural
from
wood
doing it.
or
Well,
stabilized?
no, even stabilized, because even though it's stabilized, stuff still happens to it because stuff happens to resin. It's the same thing that happens to cars that are full of fiberglass bodies, even though it's all fiberglass. Heat and humidity and cold temperatures and hot temperatures
Things still
affect
swell and contract. Yeah.
everything because it's
Yeah.
still, no matter what, it's still a thing
Yes.
that can be affected by temperatures, especially in my town where overnight it could be 20 degrees and during the day it could be 85.
Yeah.
And it could be super wet one day and ultra dry the next day.
Well, I'll tell
And
you
so
what.
I keep all my stuff in Ziploc bags, the stuff that I don't want have issues, they're Ziploc bags in Tupperware bins. I have to do that because if not, something will screw up. Like my bone material, will shear itself from, like, if I have a piece of bone that the backside was filled with resin, to make it to where it's no longer round on the backside or concaved on the backside. Just from the humidity and heat and all that stuff changing, that epoxy will shear off of the bone.
Really?
From it expanding and contracting.
Wow.
Like I've got scales that have just been ruined from my shop. So now those go into Ziploc bags. They're banded together, Ziploc bagged, and then in a little Tupperware bin, because if not, they'll screw up.
My stabilized blocks, I've got them in a drawer in my shop. I haven't thought of, because I don't think they're going to absorb moisture, but you're right, they will thermocycle. And all of my natural wood products, I use a D'Addario guitar for, like, my Gibson and my I have a Gibson J45 and a American Telecaster that I'm kind of proud of. So those two guitars, I keep a D'Addario humidity bag in there, and what that does, it just keeps humidity to a relative percentage, and then once the bag gets hard, you throw a new one in there. They're kind of soft like a bean bag, so that keeps the humidity in there for about 3 months at a time, and I'll just end up throwing it. It doesn't get wet or anything. It just maintains a relative humidity across the board with all of them, which is the right level of humidity to maintain a guitar so it doesn't crack. So far, that's tend to do very well with that wood. It's dry, but it's not dried out because it maintains. It'll only pull so much humidity out.
I mean, that's a smart idea.
Yeah, you can get them at music shops or order them online. It's D'Addario humidity bags, and just throw them in there. They're pretty cheap.
Yeah, whenever I first started making knives, watching all the YouTube videos and stuff like that, these are not the things that people talk about on YouTube. Whenever you have YouTubers do their stuff, they want to have it be super flashy, cool, sparks flying, hammers flinging, and all that stuff, because that's what gets you your views. Nobody wants to talk about handle material and all of that stuff because it's kind of boring. But that's the stuff that I wish that people would have told me about, so I didn't have to learn it firsthand,
right,
on my own. I wish that those were the conversations that people had, because this is the stuff that you really need to know. Because how many of us have accidentally screwed up a $40 block of wood?
Well, you don't know how many I've tried to cut with a bandsaw that went sideways and cut it at such an angle I couldn't use it. I've taken $40 blocks of wood that just went to the trash. I don't use Harbor Freight drill bits on wood anymore because I've broke off drill bits in a $40 piece of wood and couldn't get them out, and it was just, you were stuck. So
especially 8-inch bits.
Yeah. Here's a Templar's tip for you though. And that red handle, I could have possibly cracked it because when I was sanding it, I put it in my jaws with some leather to protect it, and I may have cranked it down too hard or something. Once I had opened up where the knife goes in when I was sanding it, it's the only thing I can figure, because I don't think it had a crack in it when I took 60 or 50% of the wood away from the block, and it was the deeper part of the wood, so I don't think there was a crack down in there. So anyway,
you want to know another tip whenever you get done with your tip?
Yeah, I do want to hear that in a second. What I do now is I have a old Nicholson file that happens to be about the right width of my tangs. I ground it down, so I now put my Nicholson file in my jaws, and then I slide my handles on that Nicholson file that I have ground down to be able to fit. And if it's a little loose or whatever, I just wrap it with a little bit of tape and put it on there, and it's holding it almost as tight as it was on a knife, and I can shape my handles that way. And these are on handles that you're looking to, you need to get them shaped before you put them on. I don't like to shape handles except full tangs unless they're unless they're off the knife before I glue them up. And if you're going for a museum fit, I always make sure that they're ready and look great before I ever glue them. You have to, because you won't get that nice transition. So anyway,
Yeah.
Nicholson file handle holder.
That's one of the things that I was doing for a while there, and now I just have scrap mild steel. I'll just take one of them and I'll outline the tang, because I do everything from through tangs to hidden tangs to half hidden tangs to all kinds of different crap, frame handles and all that stuff. So what I'll do is I'll just take a piece of mild steel and I'll grind it the thickness of my knife, and then cut out the little tang, stick that bad boy in the vise, and then stick the handle up on there, and
you've got a perfect
hand sand it and flip it around and do all that stuff.
You've got a perfect tool to set and hold that on there solidly while you shape. What do you do, Otis, here?
About what? The handle
About
shaping?
shaping your handles. Do you do them on or off the knife?
Off the knife. I mean, for my hidden things, off the knife. Yeah, totally off the knife.
How do you hold them?
Fingers.
Huh.
Well, so whenever you're sanding them, you hold it in your hand and you sand it like this, or do you ever put it?
Talk about hand sanding, or when I'm shaping it on a grinder?
No, when you're hand sanding it.
When I'm hand sanding them?
Yeah.
Oh, I have it on the knife already. I'll be putting on the knife. I will have my guard seated, and then I'll push the handle all the way to the guard without the epoxy, obviously, and then I'll work all the way around my guard, make sure everything is either museum fit or flush, and then I keep on working all towards the back.
I'm too protective of my blade at that point. I don't want to mess up.
I mean, look, if you want to, I never seen anybody do like this before. So what I've been doing lately is I will have my knife made pre-heat treat. Okay, I will then make my guard completely, almost finished. Right, I will sit the guard, make sure it's perfectly set on the knife. Then I will push the handle in there, and then I will basically finish the knife pre-heat treat. Right, so if after heat treat I have any issue, it's easier to fix, right? So picture this: you have a knife ready to go, everything is assembled. All you need to do, take everything apart, heat treat your knife, heat treat your guard if you're going to heat treat your guard, hand sand everything, reassemble everything, and stick it in there. I haven't had an issue where anything shifted yet. So and the reason for it was when I was making my guards out of Damascus. I want to etch my guards, and if you have an etched guard and you try to fit your handle over that edge guard, you know it's going to happen, right? When you're sanding it, you couldn't scratch it unless you have a mount guard for the thing. So I basically built a knife in reverse, so where my guard and my handle fit perfectly together. And after the etching process is done, I might have to retouch the handle just a hair where I can do it off the knife. And it's been working out. So
that's probably because you learned to make knives down closer to the equator, and that's probably the way they do those down there.
I mean, I've seen where they doing it, right? The way I see most people doing is just that. Okay, I etched my knife, then I etched the guard, and then I went to fit my handle and do a flush fit. Now, if you're doing a flush fit and you're doing it off the knife, there's a chance that you're going to either push it on that sandpaper a little too hard, and then your guard is prouder than your handle material.
Right.
That's not a good look and not a good feel. Or you're going to have to leave your handle material prouder than your guard, right? So what are you going to do, right? Where are you going to leave your stuff? So I've learned how to fit everything prior to heat treat, prior to finishing everything, and one last fit just before glue up, make sure everything is perfect, good to go.
Yeah, I like a flush flip, but I really enjoy a museum fit. I just think it's kind of classy looking too, and I know we've all done different ways. But speaking of flush, we mentioned about down being next to the equator. What happens if you flush a toilet on the equator? Because on the south side it spins one way, on the other north side it spins one way. Do toilets flush on the equator?
It goes straight down. No,
Just
no turning. It go.
It just woof, woof, and it's down. I got you. Well, that takes us to AmeriBraid, and you can find them at AmeriBraid.com, AmeriBraid Grinders and Accessories. Check out the fine grinders that Eric and Kevin have over there. Check them out at AmeriBraid.com. Also, check out Emily at Casting Crafts. She's got wonderful styles, and if she doesn't have something you like, you get in touch with her, and I guarantee you she'll do her best to make it to you. She's got beautiful handles. They're just striking and one of a kind. You can find those over at castingcrafts.com. So, yes, Eric.
now one of the things I want people to start doing is doing their Damascus the way that Odysseer does his. Whenever
Yeah, don't do
I don't know
that.
when no, I'm saying whenever he decides that he wants to tell people how he does his process for his etching and whatnot to get them to look as absolutely spicy and perfect as they do.
Yeah.
Whenever he decides to disclose that process to everybody, I think there's going to be a lot of really good knife makers that the ones that spend like 2 weeks, 3 weeks to make their knives. I think that's the direction they're going to go whenever they want to start selling $4,500 Damascus knives and chef's knives and stuff like that. I think that the way that he does his is the way of the future for the very high end knife makers.
Yeah, but that's not real
And,
Damascus. It's not real Damascus.
Of course
Not how
not.
they make.
well,
It's not how
Well,
they make.
Actually,
it's
if
not,
I move a town over to the town of Damascus, I can call it real
Ah,
Damascus.
yeah, right.
somebody
But I
somebody
gotta
told
buy me
me.
a house there, and then I can say, okay, this is real Damascus knife made in Damascus.
It finally
Correct.
happened. It finally happened to me. I had somebody correct me on my knife knowledge. Well, that's not real Damascus. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, so you read a Reddit post? Congrats. And it's like, guys, stop. I've got a 3 pound Woots ingot in my shop right now.
I would
that I'm gonna
actually.
end up making something out of.
I have been reading
I
on Woots
wouldn't mind
because
a small piece of it.
I've got
I'll be
some of
sending you a
that.
piece.
I've got some of those cut up 2 4-foot sections of cut up saw blade in my shop. I remember I told you I had some for you if you wanted to use it. What is the saw blade material? Is it 80 CRV2?
No, it's 15 and 20.
15 and
As
20.
in your
That's what I
longer
got. I'm
saw
sorry.
blade.
It's 15 and 20. So I've got 2 sections that are 4 inches wide and 48 inches long.
So some of the stuff that's in this ingot is 15 and 20, 52-100. He has the complete chemical like breakdown of it. He used bamboo charcoal and like all the stuff to do all the carbon and everything. It's really cool, but it is a massive ingot that
Yeah.
this guy made for me to use.
I like to watch
And
that guy on. What's that guy on YouTube that's always making the wood steel?
you have Heavy Forge, Spencer Sanderson, and then you have
Spencer
other
does a great
guy.
job. Yeah, the other guy, he
Um,
always.
I literally just saw his
Yeah.
one of his videos like yesterday.
He's.
what
I think
is
he's
his
from. I
name?
think he's foreign guy from overseas, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah. While you're looking for it, I'll tell everybody. Just it's not like just throwing a bunch of stuff with some glass and some carbon in a crucible and melting it down and then beating in a steel. I mean, there's a recipe for making this to turn out right, and I've been watching it and I've been reading on wood steel, and I do want to try it at some point in time, even more so than making squish Damascus like Otisir makes, that fake Damascus. And I'm joking
Right.
with you, Otisir. You make some beautiful Damascus, but I would love to make some wood steel. Maybe I got to pick Spencer's brain sometime.
I mean, which looks really nice. I mean, I like all those what you call those speckles that you see on the blade after it's finished. That
Yeah.
looks really really nice. I don't know what's
FZ
about that
making.
thing that it just stands out. You know,
What's his
The
name?
guy on there is it's a FZ Frank
Yeah.
FZ
and
making.
FZ making. He's the
Yeah.
one that does a lot of the Crucible woot still that you see on. This guy's got millions of views
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah, and
Yeah. Check him out on
and
YouTube for
his
sure.
work is absolutely
Oh,
clean,
some of the most
clean,
amazing stuff that you
clean,
will
absolutely
ever
clean.
see. Yeah, it's crisp, beautiful. Even his stuff that he tries to make look like, rustic is like cleaner than people who make clean knives.
Yeah, he I would say he's a museum quality maker. He's got. I'm not saying he would make historic knives. I don't know him, or I don't know him, number one, and I haven't seen all of his steel. But everything he does is so clean. I mean, I would put him up there as pardon me if I embarrass myself, but he's kind of like a Kyle Royer kind of guy. I mean, the stuff he does,
Yeah,
and everything that's even Spencer's work is just gorgeous as well. So these guys are talented.
very.
Is he from America or elsewhere? I mean, I don't know if he's from here.
He's not from America. He is. Let's see here. It doesn't show where he's from, but he is definitely from overseas because whenever you see him use his outlets or whatever, they're like the European
Okay.
outlets, and his like bottles of water are not like they're not like
Dasani.
Aquafina and Dasani. Yeah, they're not that. They're like overseas bottles of water, a lot of square bottles, and but yeah, he's an absolute amazing maker. Like, there's a few of these guys overseas that do some of this stuff.
He's from the Ukraine.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, a few of these guys stopped making knives whenever the war broke out, but some of these guys are making these ridiculously beautiful knives, and they live at like what we would consider apartments.
Yeah.
And their shop is like a canopy and some workbenches and a little tiny, what we would call like a dog run in our yards.
When Chris Jones used to give me a hard time about the 2x42 grinder I was using, and there's that one guy who makes those beautiful knives, and he is working on the backside of his shed underneath a blue canopy with all of his tools set up out there. And I'm not giving Chris Jones a hard time. It was just like, look at what this guy's making with a 2x42. If a 2x42 Palmgren 2x42 had a speed controller on it, it's a great machine. If it had a speed controller, it'd even be better. It's not much different than a vertical Grizzly, except length, but a lot of nice knives are made on those. You just have to be, well, Eric, you've got no speed control on yours. I mean, it's just a matter of knowing how to work with the tools you've got.
Neither does Otis here. He's running full blast making the knives that he has too. And that's one of the things that him and I were talking about. It's like whenever we started making knives, we didn't have all of the crazy stuff, so we had to learn how to, like for me, I like to feather in plunge lines. I like my plunge lines to have a nicer radius to them sometimes, or be super crisp. And so I had to get used to overhanging a belt and having different types of belts that have different types of flex to them. Because some belts want to really fold around your platen, and some want to stick out and give you a little extra like feedback or a little not as giving, I guess you could say. So you can learn which belt does what and figure out what's going to happen with your plunge and recreate those.
Yeah.
And if you don't learn how to do it with the crappy setup, and you get spoiled right off the bat whenever you lose your fancy stuff or something screws up on your fancy stuff and you got to go back to the Stone Ages like some of us, you get so spoiled that whenever you gotta use the other tools, it's not easy. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I'm super happy that I started off doing stock removal and you know,
On a full blast machine.
on a full blast machine, and then on top of that, um, it not forging, not doing a lot of the stuff. Uh, I've made all the forges that I have ever had, and it's like if anything happens to any of my crap, I know that I can make a knife. I've hand filed plunges and bevels and all of that crap and doing that stuff. So if for some reason I don't have power in my shop,
Right.
I could do everything that I want to do. And I've forced myself to forge knives to done. So if for some reason we had to have a situation where the only thing we could do was hammer and anvil a whole entire knife and
You've got a zombie apocalypse job, is what you're saying.
yes, and
Yeah,
Armageddon
I would
job.
have to find a way to make my way down to Texas to Erictown, you know.
yeah, yeah, because
We'd all
it's
go to Eric's place and we'd become a colony of knife
Yeah,
makers. That's how we would
that's
survive the
that's our
apocalypse.
meetup point in case of zombies, huh?
yeah, and I love that. I love having that skill to be able to do that if I wanted to. But
And that's
I
because
also
you have the biggest shop of all of us, and you have a tent that we know we can sleep out in the backyard, and you
Yeah.
have a privacy fence to hide from the zombies. So we've got our own
you
little.
do have all of that.
Yeah, we've already got our own little fort and everything. So
Yeah, and I would just say, even with all that, y'all could go back to the very first episodes that we've ever done. I've always said that both styles of knife making is knife making, whether
yeah,
you're forging or you're grinding, and it really depends on the end result that you're trying to get or what skill you're trying to acquire in
right,
that time. If you want to get better at grinding, which is what makes that is what makes knives look beautiful. Uh, I can forge all day. And yes, can I make a knife look really beautiful and cool with just forging and a wire wheel to clean all the forge scale off of it? Yes. But I have forged thousands of knives. People aren't going to do that. People typically aren't going to go through and do that to get the skill that I have at this point. I did
right,
because
right.
I wanted that technique and I wanted that skill and I forced myself to do it. But it's just like if you want a knife to look beautiful, your grinding skills have to be the thing that you work on because profiling a handle and having a beautiful handle that is comfortable and sculpted, that's stock removal. Doing a super clean knife with an even cutting edge, so where your plunges come down to your heel, and you have that beautiful symmetry where you can see your plunges come all the way down and meet, and your cutting edge is dead center down that. That is probably the thing that I think makes a knife look the most beautiful is where transition lines are perfectly symmetrical going into your swedge, going into your bevels, where your flat transition and all that stuff. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons why people who do the forge to finish or the brute to forge knives, I wouldn't say forge to finish, but brute to forge knives, and when they sand them and they finish them, they have those waves. It's because they haven't practiced
Planishing.
what they need to do, not planishing, but they haven't
Oh,
practiced what they need to do to get rid of the waves. Because a lot of them, what ends up happening is they either have too deep of a brute to forge finish, so whenever they're hand sanding, they're going down into those dips
Yeah.
I see.
as they're sanding, or they're using a leather backing or a rubber
It
backing,
does the
and
same
that's
thing.
flexing. It's flexing down into the dips. You have to use a firm backing, and you have to sand that whole entire thing with a wide backing so that it bridges the gaps across all of that. Because if not, you'll dip
That is a
down,
better way, though.
and you won't have that crisp transition between uh, bevels and flats, or they just use a Scotch-Brite belt and they in the Scotch-Brite belt over the transition line.
I have to cut in on you there. I have two things to say. Number one, I learned a great method with Josh, so that when you're drawing out your knife, the length on it, and even when you're beating down and shaping your bevels, is moving that rounding hammer in small increments, so you're not creating dips and valleys. You're just moving it along and keeping it relatively flat as that still's moving out, and you don't get into that having to try and flatten it so much later, which was really really cool. I forget what number 2 was. I was so excited about that particular one. I do have this to say, though. Based on everything right now, I can certainly endorse, and I do endorse this statement, going to theriversexperience.com. Our very own Eric Rivers, you're listening to him tonight, teach you the finer arts of knife making at the Rivers Experience on his website, YouTube, and also on Facebook. You can find him at the TRE Workshop on Facebook, and you can find him at the Rivers Experience online. And Eric, you're up to 40-something thousand followers on YouTube now?
Yeah, almost 46,000.
Yeah, that the live forging was really a great move for you, was it not?
Yeah, I'm the most watched, I guess, largest live streaming bladesmith on YouTube.
And with that being said, guys, you take Saturday night, take a couple hours, tune into Eric's shows, subscribe to him, because you'll get an alert that he's getting ready to go live. And don't cuss, because I'm actually one of those people that's allowed to block you, but I've never blocked anybody. I leave that up to Duckhead, or is it Duckhead?
Oh yeah. Duck Rabbit.
Rabbit. I'll leave that to Duck Rabbit. I'm just the old guy. I'm just kind of quiet in there now, because I'm watching as well. And you can go from just a chunk of metal, and by the time he gets done that night, you'll be looking at a knife. And he explains it all the way through. So I certainly encourage you to follow him on the TRE Workshop on Facebook. And you are the Rivers Experience on YouTube, or TRE? The Rivers Experience. The Rivers Experience on YouTube. Got you. The guy's got so many aliases. Tonight he's the TRE Mother Flipper. He must be on the run from somebody. Of course, I'm Spaghetti Margheriti di Coco is my alias on this podcast tonight. So we're always on the run. I figured the ATF has to have our addresses and phone numbers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. It has been a blast of a ride to do this live streaming, and because of that, being to a point to where I'm getting paid to go to shows to do demos.
Yeah.
Like I did the Texas Farrier Supply. They're another channel sponsor now.
Yes.
I did a demo there.
Are you sponsored by Shegman Blade Shield, the premium blade protectant?
Not yet, but
I ain't giving you no money, but I'll give you some I'll give you some product. I'll give you some product. You can try it out and determine. So
yeah, it's cool with the Texas Farrier Supply. They actually supply, whenever I go to shows, they supply the forge, the anvils, and all that stuff. So I just go down there, pick up what I need, take it to the show, use the stuff, bring it back to them when I'm done, and I don't have to travel with any of my stuff. And they are awesome. Evan and them over there are just they're a blessing to have.
Where are they in relation? Where are they in relation to where you live?
They're about 2 hours southeast of me. They are southeast of Fort Worth. And,
I will be in Texas in January and February or early March. I think the Blade Show Texas is in February, isn't it? If
I'm right, yes, it's somewhere around there. It's February or March.
Yeah, if it's in March, maybe I'll be there during that period of time. But if I'm there over a weekend or something, maybe I can slide up and see you and get a hammering lesson. I think that would be lots of fun. Lots of fun.
Oh,
I don't ever go to.
I'm down.
I won't go to Otisier's and do that because Otisier forges in the nude and underneath the moon with pinto sauce, and I'm not getting caught out in the park forging with Otisier in the nakedness.
Right. You really
March,
don't want it.
March 7th and 8th.
March 7th and 8th. You know what? That may be when I'm there. Let me ask you this, Otisier. Have you picked out 4 knives to take to Atlanta this year?
Not yet. I'm gonna start working on them after sometime in January, I think.
Are you going?
I already have 2 actually. The 2 I just showed you.
Yeah.
So if I still have them from here to then, I'll take those.
I'm kind of thinking that they'll go ahead and make me just pull me in as a voting member with my first 4 knives.
That would be awesome.
What are y'all laughing at? They can.
Then
do
you
that.
can vote me in, right quick.
I'd vote you. I would vote you straight in too as a voting member. Yeah.
Right.
No, I'll be a year behind you. Right now, I'm looking up where I'm going to be in February or March. What now?
7th and 8th for Texas.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to be in Waco, Texas the week of March the 3rd, which means the 7th and the 8th, and I can drive back home on the 9th. I will see you at Blade Show, Texas this year, Eric. I'm so excited.
I should have my table there too. So
should I wear a kilt? You
can if you want.
I don't wear no man dress. I did get a new. I got a new 100% beaver fur hat from Hats by Grizz. You can find them at etsy.com/shop/hats by Grizz. I got a brand new Ranchero in black to match my black boots that I'll wear that over there for that.
I wonder if the Etsy thing does good for something like hats. Like it's not the place that I would say that knife makers need to be selling their stuff on, but I feel like hats and things that are like that, because you know a cheap knockoff hat when you see one. It's hard for a person who is just kind of interested in knives to not understand that the Pakistan Damascus knives are not the same quality as everybody else's Damascus knives.
It's the same with hats. People don't understand. And the hat.
But how much does he charge for his hats?
Well, the hat I just got would have been a $600 hat if I had bought out on the market. I got it at a different price, not because I'm sponsored. Grizz is a small shop maker. That's his source of income for him and his wife. I pay 100% plus tip every hat that I get. They put it on a rush order for me, so I'd get it for Christmas. They upgraded it to 100% beaver fur because he had some furs in, and or had some pelts in. Not pelts. They had some hat cones in the before you shape it, kind of thing. They had them in 100%. So he did some upgrades for me. And those are the things I really enjoy about them. But no, when you go to Etsy there, it shows you 17 other makers. And a lot of them are those cheap Chinese-made hats. A lot of people got into these whole the hat's got to look like it's been burnt, drugged through the dirt. They throw an ace of spades in the side of it and a feather and hang because Johnny Depp and others made all that stuff famous. And that stuff comes over from China. I ordered one because it was like $17. I wanted to see what it was. And it was like a Halloween hat that you would get at Walmart for Christmas to go as a cowboy. It was thin, cheap, nasty, whatever. And I ordered it for that reason. I wanted to see, what do you get for $17? Unfortunately, people like Grizz get mixed in with that group. And being a small shop, he's been making hats for 50 years and not technically proficient on those other things. And I've offered to help. Etsy gets a cut, and 17, 18 other makers are there next to your hats unless somebody goes directly to your page.
Yep.
So it's a struggle, I think.
So even hat makers have a dumb issue. Like I was gonna do Etsy, so I created a profile and did all this stuff. This was probably 4 years ago, and it was probably 4 years ago. I was gonna do that before I did my website. I was gonna try out the whole Etsy thing, and whenever I was gonna post my first knife on there, or I think it was like $250, $280.
Yeah.
And I posted it, and then I went and looked at my post. And down at the bottom, you scroll to the description, and just past your description, it gives you a row of other knives.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It was like all of these knives, they were just like, all the Texas flag handle knives that you see, and like all of these, like
And they
6
were
bolt
either
cutters.
overseas knives or crap knives. Yeah, you got
Yes,
bunched in with everybody.
and they were all like $25 fake Damascus knives, and I'm sitting here, selling a mono steel, nice knife for like 250, 280
And then
bucks.
they're going to take a
It's
large
like,
portion of your money, to host it on their site. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yep.
So
I pulled it down and canceled that.
Yeah, I don't think Etsy's a bad thing for something, because I've gone out. That's where I got my guillotine for my anvil guillotine tool. But honestly, I think that a lot of people just out there preying on people's ability to do things themselves. Even with me, I'm getting ready to tired of getting preyed on by credit card processors. They sit and take money to hook you up, and then they go, well, you can't sell that here because you're making weapons. And I'm like, these aren't weapons. I don't make something that looks like a Rambo knife. And steak knives kill more people in the United States than probably any other knife. Steaks and butcher knives. Yeah. And I think if you looked it up, that's what you'd find out. But the thing is that I'm getting ready to go with a credit card processor, which is a conservative industry, sponsored by Dan Bongino. And I'm trying to remember the name of it right now. I don't know if I have it on my phone or not, but I went ahead and filled out the paperwork this past week.
Should be in the chat, because I think you posted something about it in the Nice Templar chat.
Let me see. Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino credit parallel economy.
I think you spelled his name wrong.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's called Parallel Economy.
Yep, it is Parallel Economy.
Yeah, so if you go to Parallel Economy, you can set up an account for them, and they've got card readers, and their processing fees and everything are actually pretty darn good. So I'm going to set up with them. You just have to have a business license. You can't call yourself a business and not actually have a business.
Tax ID and all that.
Yeah, you can't be a hobby business with no tax ID number. You've got to have a tax ID number. So anyway, that's where I'm going to set up. Hey, speaking of, I know who's probably got tax ID numbers. You need to go to Broadbeck Ironworks and check them at broadbeckironworks.com and check out their line of grinders and hammers and all the other tools they offer. Matter of fact, while you're at it and you're shopping for a good grinder, because, hey, we talk about a bunch of different tools. I'm an Ameribraid guy, but you need to check out housemade.us. He's got a 2x72 grinder over there, and he also makes the great Apollo Forge quench plates. And if you want to make a spoon, he's the guy to go get your dies to make spoons. There's going to be a lot of spoons again at Blade Show this year, and he's been very successful. That I'm not knocking it, but go out and check housemade.us, and don't want to forget our buddy Mr. Machado. Did I say that right? Frank's last name, Frank Machado, over at F&N Metalworks, Two Bastards, Texas Smithy and Supplies. You can find them at facebook.com/2bastards. That's spelled BASTERDS. If you're looking for great hammers and other tools used in knife making. Has he come out with something new here recently? Did I see him working with a tool or something? I know it seems like he made a hatchet or something I saw, but I thought maybe he'd come out with a tool or something.
He's making all kinds of things right now.
Of
course, the latest grinder I think is his Typhoon, the 2x.
Oh, you're talking about Housemade. I'm talking about.
Which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about Frank.
Okay, yeah. So with him, the things that he's working on right now is his restoration line. So it's the Two Bastards restoration line, where he's actually I've got a turning hammer from him. It's actually one of my favorite hammers that I have right now. It's like a 2.5 pound turning hammer from Farrier, and just imagine two dog head hammers put on either end. It is a beautiful hammer. I will show it to y'all whenever we're done recording this. But
Yeah.
he's got this vintage line that he's working on, which is his Two Bastards Vintage or Two Bastards Restoration. That's one of his new things. And then he is working on Hardy tools right now.
Maybe that's what I saw.
Uh,
Some Hardy tools. Did he make a
yeah.
small little anvil that fits in your Hardy hole? Did I see you using something like that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
So
what I'm.
he's got that, and he's got some hold down tools and
Yeah.
everything that you can do that go down in your Hardy hole and has like weighted chains
Don't be
and that
sticking
stuff.
anything in my
So
Hardy hole. Don't you talk about my Hardy hole. Don't be sticking anything in my Hardy hole.
he uh he's got some cool stuff that
He
he's doing
does.
right now, and he's just an awesome person. When you talk about supporting somebody in the community, that guy. So whenever I was at the Texas Custom Knife Show, he brought this little railroad track anvil that was probably about 8 inches long.
Yeah.
Just this really cool little anvil, and a little hammer, little dog head hammer that he had, and it was one of those things where whenever he told me, Eric, if you while you're doing your whole thing, find a young gentleman or lady that wanted to get into this type of hobby and has actually tried or started trying to get into it,
Yeah.
let me know who they are. And he gave, so I had somebody who had started making their own knives a little bit, kind of doing stock removal and stuff like that. And they wanted to get into the smithing side of it. He actually gave them this little anvil and hammer set up so that they could start. All they would need is a forge. And he gave them the thing that a lot of people are kind of worried about getting, the anvil, the hammer, that type of stuff.
Right.
He just donated it to the kid, and that's the type of stuff that makes Frank awesome. He is just all about this community, and he is one of those guys that goes in 100% whenever he's trying to help out somebody.
He is one good guy, and that's the only way I would rank him. I will tell you what, housemaid. I was over at the Coleman Forge with Josh Ferran, and he had one of the housemaid dog head hammers, and I will tell you, I fell in love and liked that thing quite a bit. It's not a very heavy hammer, and that's one thing he was mentioning. It's a smaller hammer. He was trying to figure out how he would use it and everything, but I don't know if it was like 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds or whatever. It might have been like 1.5 pounds, a smaller hammer. But I was like, this is kind of cool. Matter of fact, Clark Taplin makes a drift punch set for his press that if I wanted to make some hammers, I could. It's not necessarily somewhere I want to go, but I might just buy one of those dies just to have it on hand. Want to make axe heads and stuff or hatchets and stuff. Be great for that too. But I enjoyed that doghead hammer. It was kind of cool. It was. Hey guys, we're getting close to the top of the 2 hours. So before we get there, let's kind of chat on what we'll be doing the next couple weeks. I will tell you, I'll start off real quick because y'all have more interesting stories. I've got a chef knife for Dr. Digger Cleverly with the Cleverleys that I'll be working on tomorrow. I've got to normalize that thing. After I grind the profile, I'm going to normalize it, and then maybe on Saturday evening or Sunday, I'll be grinding that one out. And I've got to mix up some Shegman Blade Shield, get that all packaged and put up because I have some new. I received a case full of labels tonight to get that going. That will be live out on knife-maker.com. And the Shegman Knifer podcast goes live sometime this evening. We're going to do a video/audio podcast, so you can either listen to it or you can watch it on YouTube or your other providers. Tonight's release will just be video or just audio, only because something went wrong with the video. It didn't. Either my face broke the camera or I didn't have something turned on right. So we'll start off that way. And I've got 7 knives to profile to try and make 7 at a time. And I've seen Eric do it, so I'm going to try and see if I can't live up to your abilities to set and produce. Thank goodness I'm just doing stock removal, but I've got to get on those this weekend too. Otisiro, what you got going on? You're killing. You're a
nothing
hunting
much.
machine. You're a hunting machine, dude.
Nothing much. Nothing much. I've been chilling, relaxing. Took a step away, just for a moment for my knife making and enjoying other hobbies. So yeah, just
Yeah.
enjoying the season, I guess. Yeah. So.
Well, that's good. So are you going out hunting anymore? Or have you filled all your tags?
Oh, there is no filling all the tags. My immediate counties around me, we have unlimited doe tags. So I help I helped fill a whole bunch of freezers already.
Yeah.
So think I'm gonna be bagging another one or two. I need to get my freezer full, and we're gonna call it a season. I already got 16 on the bag. I tagged out on bucks. I got my 2 bucks plus my bonus buck stamp. So I got a nice 7-pointer, huge, uh, super decent 10-pointer, and an excellent 8-pointer. All huge, big bodied deer. And then 13 antlerless. Um, we have unlimited antlerless tags in my suburban counties, Howard, Montgomery, Anne Arundel, PG, and Baltimore. So, good enough. I mean, you've been here, so you've seen they're all over the place.
Oh, there are
So
deer
it
everywhere
is
there,
a
yeah.
plentiful resource that I wish more people would take advantage of, so there wouldn't be so many on the roads getting ran over and causing accidents.
Yeah. Well,
A
you're
little
doing your
while
job.
back, I mean,
You're doing your
5 minutes
job.
from my house, my wife was going down on 95, and a doe jumped from the side of the road and totaled her brand new car. Right, so
When was this?
about year and a half ago.
Oh,
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah. So
I hate suicidal deer.
right. So I mean, they're all over the place. So it's not like it's a difficult thing to catch a deer here in Maryland.
Yeah.
It's like you throw a stone and you're gonna hit one.
Can I ask you
So
one
it's not
question?
that Pinto is that super hunter. No, it's just that there's so many of them that it's nearly impossible for you to go out there and at least not see one,
Yeah.
or I'll let this one go because there's a bigger one coming right behind him.
Yeah. Well, I'll be back up there next week, so I'll watch out for them. Let me ask you this:
Ask me
How
this.
long is a difficult tang supposed to be? Because
as long as you're comfortable handling it, my friend.
Your Portuguese Brazilian, I just kind of picked up on that. He just said difficult tang, but I knew what you meant. Yeah, I'll be up your way. As a matter of fact, we may stop in to see an elderly relative in Laurel while we're up there. If I'm in Laurel, I'll let you know for sure.
Yeah,
I will let you know.
This was my son's first.
No, that was my first deer.
A couple years ago.
Oh no! I killed his deer this year. I'm sorry. I got you. Yeah. That's nice. I love all those antler mounts that you've got. Hey, I will tell you what. I finally figured out why I've got audio only recording tonight, because Riverside has now changed it. Now that they're owned by, I don't know if they are or not. Probably trying to save bandwidth. You now have to click audio and video, not just audio. It defaults to audio only, so that must save them bandwidth on their servers. That's why I got audio only on the first episode of the Sheckman Niver. No big deal, though. But I'm glad I figured it out and announced to the world. And I'll also announce to the world I've still got 273 calories today because I'm eating right, and I'm down to 213 now. 213. Y'all.
Nice.
Yes. Working on it. Eric, what you got going on this weekend? You still catching up on your sleep from all that traveling you've been doing, or?
definitely catching up on that. Of course,
Eric doesn't sleep.
I know that.
It would be great if my job didn't start so early in the morning. Um, but yeah, I typically get between 4 and 5.5 hours of sleep a night.
Wow.
Um,
How's your day job going? You've been doing that for about 6 months now?
it's going good. I'm probably gonna have to switch it up and do something else just because it really, unless they change our route up a little bit, it's gonna kind of have some conflicting times uh, with uh, it's gonna have conflicting dates with shows that are paying me to be there and
Gotcha.
and are shows that are ones that I really want to be
Have you
at
told them about
for what I'm doing.
have you told them about your celebrity?
Yes, they don't care.
Ain't that something?
So it's one of those things where it they are friendly with me when it comes to stuff like this, and they have helped a little bit with some of it, but it's just it's going to conflict
I
way
understand.
too much. And on top of that, I mean, it's a good job, but it pays about $9.50 to $10 an hour less than what I was doing before, and that's like a whole person's income a year that I lost out on. So I have to be able to do these other shows
I
and
see.
these other things in order to compensate for that. And if I can't do that and have this job, well, then I'll just go work somewhere else that pays an equivalent wage that lets me do the stuff that I want to do. It's not like if this job was paying me what I was making before, I would be like, I'll just skip out on some of those other things. But I have to do those in order to compensate for the pay. So
totally
it's like,
understand.
it is what it is. But other than that, I am working on. I've got these 6 knives that I need to finish. Plus, y'all saw the picture of all the ones that I have on my workbench. I've got to start working through those because those are going to be inventory for Blade Show Texas, and I need to make sure that I have all the different price points in knives, everything from $100 knives to $2,000 knife. So I'll have those. I am going to be starting to work in on this chunk of woots that I've got right here.
Look at that. Look at that.
Ingot.
That's nice.
That's the thing I was talking about there. So gotta start working on that guy.
How sure are you that wood is solid throughout that billet?
This is the third in the batch that he did like this, and I actually got to hold the knives that he made with the other ones from this batch, and same makeup and all that. You take and you forge this down, so this doesn't get like I'm gonna weld a stick to the end of this, and this is gonna be power hammered into a bar.
Oh no, I think you need to hand hammer that one on a Saturday night for us.
Yeah, right. So Wootz ingots like this are some of the hardest things you're ever gonna forge.
Yeah. And then you're gonna send me a piece of that bar.
I'm gonna send you a piece of it. I think that you would make a cool knife with that. So this is gonna turn into probably 2 very large bars. That's about 3.5 pounds
That's a lot
of steel. So that's going to be a lot. And then I've also got a piece of Flutagon, 830 or 833 that I'm going to make a dog head hammer out of for myself.
Oh, sweet.
And, that's hammer steel. And I've got the drift for it that I made and everything. So I'm going to make my own dog head hammer just to try it out. And
that's
do all
cool.
That.
That's very cool.
That's one of those things that I really wanted to work with, and I don't know what my wife is laughing about, but she's in the background here laughing. So gonna be working on those things.
Has she gotten into the Shegman Blade Shield? And when during the podcast when she's out of the room, because it does make you a little tipsy if you. If you sniff it too much, yeah. It's got pinto sauce in it.
Oh.
She's like, what?
But yeah, I know. And she like we've got all kinds of stuff that we're trying to do. I'm trying to get to a point to where uh, this is the thing that I've been telling people lately. Uh, I, over the last 6 months and through the next year, my goal is to get on a TV show. I'm not talking about Forged in Fire, like trying to get on as a contestant or something like that. My goal is to end up being the host or one of the hosts or one of the judges of one of the shows. So that's why I've been doing
I know somebody with RuPaul's Drag Race. I could probably get you something on there, maybe a spinoff.
Hey, I've got the hair for it.
I've seen you growing the hair.
Already got you in, man.
And,
RuPaul's Forging Race.
RuPaul's Forging. And I've already got the dress for it and everything, the kilt. And but the goal is to go to these shows and do them with the guys that are already on TV.
Yeah.
And be the other person who's doing this and work my way into that and prove that I can be in front of crowds and draw a crowd, because that is what helps you drive that.
You get your credibility too. Well, let me say this. I've got the handlebar and the beard, kind of like the weapons maker guy on Forged in Fire. Otis Sear can say it will kill with an accent. Josh Ferran can say whiskey. And we've got enough people that we could be your judge panel. So you host it. You find the show to host, and we'll be your judge panel. I don't know what will be, stock removal in fire or something. I don't know. We'll call the show just stock removal show. So, yep. And with that being said, hey guys, questions, comments, product reviews, show and guest ideas, subscribe or email us at thenivestemplars@yahoo.com. I check it every day, or DM us on Facebook in the Knives Templars podcast group. Visit us at knivestemplars.com to always stay up to date. This episode is sponsored by the Rivers Experience, Redeem Steel, Casting Crafts, Ameribraid and Majestic Forge, Pops Knife Supplies, Maritime Knife Supply, Housemade, and Phoenix. And you put in Templars 10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off your orders at Phoenix Abrasives. Also, Broadbeck Ironworks has a Templars 10 parts and accessories discount with Templars 10 at checkout. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube Music, Anchor, Amazon, YouTube Video, Castbox, and many, many more. Guys, this is the time where you are now going to say
good night, goodbye.
Oinky, oinky, oinky.
Oinky, oinky, oinky.
Good night.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Brought to you by PORKHouse Productions. Oinky,
there you go,
oinky.
Otis. Here you got your oinky, oinky, oinky. Man, I'm glad to have you guys back. I've missed you.
It's awesome being back.
Yeah, and you know what? With our format, with people able to come in and come out, so you can get to the other things in life, because life's full of many things. It makes it very convenient. I'm sure there'll be some time where we're all fighting that who can't be on tonight. Emily is the rookie, so she's so far. But, and I'm joking, of course, we may just throw Otis here off. But, no, I'm joking, Otis here. I would never. When you said, hey, I need to take a little break, I was freaking out because I love Otis here. He doesn't know it, but I really love Otis here. He's a good man. And,
people love him too.
They do. But Otis here, his heart shows through his comments. He's unfiltered and about as good as a guy as you'd ever want to meet. Anyway, he's here. I'm sorry, we're talking about it. So he's blushing. Go ahead, Eric.
That's that hammer I was talking about. It reminds me of a yoke on an axle.
Yeah, universal.
Not on axle, drive shaft.
Drive.
Yeah. So it reminds me of that, but this is a turning hammer from sorry, my wife is evidently dying in the background, coughing right now.
It's okay. We don't. Not okay, she's dying, but I mean, I hear you.
She tried to walk off, but she just started coughing louder as she was going that way. It reminds me of that, but what I like about it is how far away the head is, like the face is from the actual the hammer handle itself. But yeah, it's a turning hammer, and it is the nicest little radius on the round side, and then on the flat side. It reminds me of uh, I've got two ball peen hammers. One of them has a slight radius like this one, and one of them has a flatter face. And those are my two favorite like ball peen hammers. This is like two of the ball peen heads without the ball peen side.
Who made that?
So this is a Heller turning hammer, but it is one of the, I don't even know if y'all can see it really, but it's got Frank's 2B vintage logo in the side there. This is one of his vintage restoration hammers with one of his beautiful handles on it. And he actually rehandled my little auto body hammer and my ball peen hammer, the ones that I've had for like 20 something years, with beautiful, just really nice handles. And I love this hammer. This is like one of my favorite hammers that I have right now. And it is just a vintage Heller turning hammer.
Now, why is it called a turning hammer?
It's a farrier's hammer. They don't use really like rounding hammers.
Okay.
It's a turning hammer. That is what they're actually called.
Because you turn from flat to rounding, you know.
Yeah, and you do a lot. Boom, 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 boom. And what I like about it is one of the most balanced hammers that I've ever used ever. And you can swing it hard, you can do soft work with it, whatever you want to do. But whenever you're going in and you're forging, like whenever I'm doing my bevels and I want to pinch the whole entire cutting edge and I only want to hammer that bottom third of the bevel,
right?
To really get after it and forge down a little heel and really fine tune all these little areas. That's the hammer I want to use. It works really well, and I've got different hammers for different types of things that I'm making. But that bad boy, I used it a lot on these guys. It works at isolating and doing all that so well.
Yeah.
And you can forge with it so fast. Because, I'm so used to forging with a 4-pound hammer.
Yeah.
Forging with like a just over 2-pound hammer, it is like, I am a blasting the whole entire time.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he had that on his table. I walked up. This is at the Texas Custom Knife Show. He had his hammers on one side, then he had his restoration hammers. And I always look at his little restoration hammers because he gets them from Austria and these cool dog heads and these cool like traditional looking cross peens. You know how they're like basically a rectangle and a triangle, but they're smaller.
Yeah.
Like the classic cross peen look.
Yeah.
He always has those, and I love those little hammers. And I was just picking them up, and I picked this one up, and I said, Frank, this is on Friday. The show doesn't open till Saturday. I said, all right, this is my hammer. I'm taking this with me. And he was like, what? I said, yeah, you're not selling this hammer. I can either buy it from you, or I can give you an integral bolster knife or something. And of course he took the knife.
Cool.
But I said, I want this, and this is mine now. So you tell me what you want. You want money, or do you want this? Do you want a knife?
Sounds like a good deal. Sounds like a good deal.
Yeah. So I'm happy with it. That's the stuff that I like.
Just good. It's just really good that he didn't want to put anything in your hardy hole.
Right.
Hey.
Oinky, oinky, oinky.